So recently there's been a very big conversation around CSGO gambling on YouTube, mostly spearheaded by CoffeeZilla, who you guys probably know. He makes some pretty good videos.
There's a lot of opinions about what the problem is, who's the villain, who's the good guy. Hardly anyone agrees on anything. But I did find one thing that nearly everyone agrees on.
And today I thought it would be interesting to go through the history of CSGO gambling and the fact that this is not a new problem. These guys aren't even in high school yet, and they're gambling. That's disgusting. In fact, it's a problem that's been going on for almost 10 years at this point, and really there's been no repercussions either from the YouTubers promoting it, from the people who actually own these businesses, or towards Valve, people who ultimately profit from this ecosystem of underage, unregulated gambling quite a bit, and I find it kind of unnerving and blackpilling. To really understand the CSGO gambling thing, I think I need to take you guys back to the past a little bit, all right? I need to take you guys back to the past, all the way back to the year 2012. Because in 2012, something happened. And what happened was a little game called Counter-Strike Go was released to the world.
Rated M for mature.
Global offensive. Now this game, this trailer, right, was pretty cool. Cool trailer. But the game did not immediately blow up. It would take a little bit before the game gained some serious steam, so to speak. But by 2015, 2016, Counter-Strike was one of the most popular games in the world at the time. It was super played on Steam, constantly a higher viewer count, right? And a lot of people were making videos about it. There were like, you know, Steam filmmaker animations. Leafy was using it as the background gameplay for his commentary videos. Everybody was playing Counter-Strike, and if they weren't playing it, they were watching videos that had it involved in some way. The Golden Karambit was such a meme back in the day. All the FaZe guys were playing Counter-Strike after Call of Duty, right? It was a huge thing, all right? And part of what made Counter-Strike so appealing in the first place was because of the way that it interacted with Steam. And Steam at the time, obviously we still know what Steam is. It's, you know, the marketplace for buying games. But Steam had a system built in that allowed Counter-Strike to have an expansive in-game economy. And this was, you know, it had been done before, but it was kind of a revolutionary thing, right? The idea of having digital items in this game and it getting so popular in the way that it did, because you could exchange these items for real world currency, which created a digital market for items, right? For particularly knives and knife skins and stuff like that, right? And as a result, there were even a lot of real world economic studies that were created based on Counter-Strike. Here we have a TEDx speech titled "Free Market, a Case Study in Team Fortress 2. And this is not Counter-Strike, this is TF2. But while TF2 had, you know, this kind of a system implemented, CSGO really was the one that took it and ran with it to a crazy extent, right? To a crazy, crazy extent. But essentially what Steam did is it created this very interesting digital marketplace. But what it also was an unregulated market, right? And any unregulated market, much like we saw with crypto and NFTs, it's bound to attract deceptive people who want to take advantage of that unregulated market, right? And as a result, these strange, deceptive merchants who were attracted to it realized that they needed to become embedded with the very people who were playing the game. And why were people playing the game? Well, a big reason was because YouTubers were playing it on YouTube and talking about it, right? How many games have you guys played that the reason you played it is because a YouTuber talked about it, you saw a YouTuber play it? And that brings us to a man named MoTV. All right, Muhammad Assad. Here's MoTV. Hasn't uploaded for 5 months, but back in the day it was uploading quite a bit. And you can see CSGO Knife, crazy unboxing in the cycle, MoTV. Mo watches how Shroud really plays CSGO. A lot of Counter-Strike content at the time, right? So Mo began as a professional player, but over time, he graduated towards more business endeavors, right? I believe in the past, he also has a little history of NFT type stuff, but that's kind of, you know, not here nor there, doesn't really matter. But by early 2016, MoTV had retired from his professional competitive team to focus on managing the team. And around the same time, he started advertising a site known as CSGO Diamonds.
Yo, what is going on, everyone? It's FatNoob here, bringing you guys another CSGO video. And in today's video, I'm going to show you guys my favorite strategy on CSGO Diamonds. So I actually discovered this yesterday and I tried it out for probably an hour, and I actually made some pretty good profit, guys. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this in this video. So make sure you guys...
So people were using this site, CSGO Diamonds. What is CSGO Diamonds? Why is this kid named FatNoob on YouTube talking about best strategy, CSGO martingale method? Well, CSGO Diamonds was speculated to be the second largest site of its kind at the time, being second place only to CSGO Wild. And MoTV had accepted a sponsorship with CSGO Diamonds, agreeing to play on the site for several months on stream. Much in the same way, you know, this parallels a lot of stuff later on with gambling sites like Stake, for example, advertising with Trainwrecks by giving him an allotted amount of money that he can gamble with, and he then gets to make streams about it. And obviously, some people in the audience are encouraged to then go use the site because he gives them promo. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Like advertising anything. But the problem is that obviously a gambling site, or what is effectively a gambling site in the case of like CSGO Diamonds or something like that, is obviously going to be a lot more controversial than any old sponsorship like Dollar Shave Club, something like that. But the relationship between Mo and CSGO Diamonds became strained at some point in time. All right, it became kind of strained by mid 2016. They had a negotiating dispute. It went pretty poorly, and as a result, Mo was pretty pissed off, and so he decided to make some claims about CSGO Diamonds. He decided to expose them for supposedly rigging the results, okay?
He wanted to apologize to the whole community. He released these tweets kind of summing up his relationship with CSGO Diamonds, but also hiding part of the truth. His messages here show himself being affiliated with CSGO Diamonds and agreeing to do some fake bets with them, but it's kind of curious because he chose these specific messages on Skype as, you know, you can see MoTV saying, let's not cheat too much. I'm not sure if we want to do this, guys. My fans might get upset about this. They might catch on. But at the same time, you know, you have to realize MoTV, he might seem in these Skype messages like he was really reluctant to do it, but in the very end, he still ended up faking these bets for pure.
And so what he exposed CSGO Diamonds for was for rigging their bets so that they looked favorable on his videos. And in the DMs here that were leaked, this guy says, so if I were to look right now, Mo says, you're saying you want to let me know if I'll win. This guy says, I can tell you next roll is going to be 34-35. Mo says, I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, it would be super sick for like one highlight, but I don't think we should ever do that because that will ruin the whole site's integrity if it gets out. And this guy in response says, not really, right? So he essentially exposed CSGO Diamonds for rigging bets, but he at the same time had kind of taken part in it, right? He says, CSGO Diamonds owner admitted to fraud. He would send me the rolls before they happened. He did it multiple times, even with me saying not to. He also released 2 Skype chat logs with one reading. Here's one of them.
Time, you know, you have to realize MoTV, he might seem in these Skype messages like he was really reluctant to do it, but in the very end, he still ended up faking these bets for pure entertainment. It was later on stated by CSGO Diamonds and Mo that they both...
Not just for entertainment, though, but also because it, you know, made it more entertaining so that the ad was better, so that people would use the site CSGO Diamonds.
Both agreed to do these fake bets for pure entertainment reasons. You know, they weren't trying to make money off it, which is complete BS because, you know, when you do this for complete entertainment, you know you're influencing people to go onto the website. So again, you have Mo coming out with these tweets on Twitter trying to, you know, show his sorry side, like he wasn't fully on board, although he did still go through the fake bets.
And Jake Lucky here was very, very critical of him at the time. I think he got a lot of backlash for it, right? Now, what's the most surprising thing about this is that you would kind of expect from the business itself that they would probably deny this kind of allegation. I assume you would probably expect that. Don't cheat at all, cheating's bad. Yeah, true. As if cheating the lottery a little bit isn't just rigging the lottery still. Well, the most important thing is that it was being rigged so that the results look more favorable and interesting and crazy, so that people would then get on board with, you know, gambling on the site essentially, right? But rather than deny this allegation, CSGO Diamonds actually admitted this on Twitter. They admitted that what Mo stated was true. But instead of kind of delving into that side of things, they decided to focus the response on attempting to impugn Mo, right, to try and call him out by alleging that Mo had been cheating since the very start. They said, since we're a provably fair site, we're able to check all future rolls just like any other provably fair site. For example, CSGO Double could tell you what the next 100 colors will be. It's important to note that just because we can see the future results doesn't mean we can change them. In a quick decision, we made a mistake with Mo and decided to tell him some of his future rolls in an effort to make his stream more entertaining on our site. Past this point, they specifically accused Mo of asking for roll results while on stream, claiming that he only threatened to expose them as leverage for a better business deal. Here we have them saying, we both made a bad decision to do this just for entertainment, but Mo cannot act like an innocent bystander. So they're saying Mo is guilty too. Mo's full of shit.
Numbers, they can't change them as is. Otherwise, you'd be able to tell when they actually change those numbers. But what they can do is they can draw these long lists of numbers. With CSGO Diamonds, is a list of numbers between 1 and 100, and they can tell Mo which numbers will be hit. And so he can actually, you know, have a list, you know, on his computer screen whenever he wants of the next 50, next 100 bets, and that's why he can choose, you know, to bet under 20, bet over 20, whatever it is.
And so right off the bat from this very early case, we can see an instance where MoTV exposes CSGO Diamonds, CSGO Diamonds kind of exposes him back, and they're like, well, yeah, obviously we can predict the rolls, but he was in on it the entire time. This guy was in on it the entire time. That's what they said. Now, there's a lost tweet regarding this, but supposedly there was also some other thing that happened here, which I don't love Polygon necessarily, but I'm trusting that they didn't entirely fake a fucking tweet, right? In the now lost tweet, they go on to state that his severance deal alone, as in the amount paid upon him leaving their partnership, right, because he didn't want to work with them anymore because, you know, he had some problem with them, some dispute over business, was over 170 Bitcoin. And 170 Bitcoin at the time would have been about $100,000. So a big severance deal. So basically, the point that is being made here is as much as Mo was framing himself as the hero, He intentionally was promoting a gambling site to his audience under no real risk of losses. He wasn't going to lose, right? He was always going to get a favorable result because he knew that it was rigged. Meanwhile, he got to walk away with a ton of money from it, right? While promoting this site to his audience, right? So MoTV, ultimately, MoTV is not that important, but this is an important building block along the way of the story, right? This is an important kind of first note here in the CSGO gambling controversy. Anthony, we only picked a winner for the Mega Millions for entertainment purposes. So the more people will pour money into the lottery. Yeah, it's all entertainment, dude. It's all fucking entertainment. That's what you have to understand. It's all entertainment. Now, Mo would try to frame himself as the hero. He wasn't really the hero, right? He was kind of exposing them after the fact while he had kind of engaged in the same behavior. And so as a result, when he did an interview with Richard Lewis, he basically had to admit to arranging sponsorships with them, with other influencers. So not only was he, rigging this thing from the start or, complicit in it being rigged, but he also was spreading around CSGO diamonds.
Say like, oh no, people can't pull this out. People can't pull. Even when I went out and got them influencers to like help promote the site, they would have them very limited on what they were able to do and what they were not able to do. Now, for me, like I said, like I do get refills if I'm at 0.
Yeah.
But anything I win, I can keep. It's just my problem is I lose it all.
Right.
But why do I lose it all? Because
so these takes from him were pretty fucking cringe, to be honest. This is pretty retarded, but his moral posturing wasn't entirely without benefits, right? His call out and his subsequent back and forth basically with CSGO Diamonds, this team he had partnered with, this business he had partnered with, really did go as far as to reveal the inner workings of the site to the public for the first time. We hadn't really seen this before. We didn't know what the behind the scenes stuff was like for these CSGO gambling sites, and this is one example that was pretty fucking interesting, right? Pretty fucking interesting. And as a result, people started being suspicious over how involved all the other influencers were with this kind of thing. Were they aware of bets being rigged? Could it be assumed that all the bets for these other sites are being rigged, similar to CSGO Diamonds, right? Mo did escape the controversy. He didn't get in a lot of shit at the time because it just wasn't on a super mainstream level. There were people that were noticing at the time, and one of the people that was noticing was Jake Lucky. Now, Jake Lucky, you guys probably know of him. I do find him to be very cringe on Twitter nowadays. He tends to, I think, report news that straight up retarded and call out people for stuff that doesn't matter. But at the time, he was definitely onto this story, and I think that there were a lot of benefits to him covering it and him noticing. He was a big noticer. It literally went from CSGO to crypto casinos, basically the same thing nowadays with the sponsors refilling their balance, setting up odds, etc. Yeah, exactly. The parallels between this and like quote unquote actual gambling sites like Stake is insane. Although I don't know if Stake is rigging their bets. I guess that is one thing I have no knowledge of if they're rigging their bets intentionally or anything like that. But they do give, their YouTubers, I mean, they self-admittedly do this. They give the people that they sponsor basically money they can gamble with, like Bossman Jack, for example, right? Now, Jake Lucky on Esports Talk was calling this stuff out, right? And his video calling out Mo actually received basically 1,000 dislikes, and he ended up responding to this in a video where he kind of pushed back a little bit. He kind of stood on his ground. He stood on his opinion on the fact that MoTV deserves to be called out for this.
Side of things where it definitely should be illegal to do what he has done, to come out and admit that he has scandaled and scammed his fans and not receive any backlash from the game, any corporations, Twitch at all, where he actually streamed all this fake business is absolutely mind-blowing. The fact that also we have probably a good, almost 50% of his fans still thinking that it's okay what he did.
And I don't know why MoTV didn't get more backlash for it. Maybe it's because his audience was just retarded. Maybe they were children. Maybe they were retarded children. Mix of the two, could be kind of these two things coming together, right? MoTV definitely kind of got away with this in the short term. But once again, MoTV is kind of a side note. It doesn't really matter. This is years ago. I'm not trying to get MoTV and shit now for this. I don't particularly care. But what I am saying is that this is a big part of the building blocks of this story, of this entire controversy, the history of CSGO gambling, right? And so Jake Lucky, now that he was taking notice of MoTV, started looking into other scenarios. And eventually he would make a video highlighting the fact that several members of FaZe Clan had begun uploading videos promoting the largest Counter-Strike gambling site at the time, which was CSGO Wild.
Model. And then you see him upload videos where he's gambling tens and tens
FaZe Rain, how to win $5,000 in 5 minutes.
of thousands of dollars, and no one at all questioned it. Even
I won $6,000 by FaZe Rain.
myself, I never questioned this. I never in my mind thought, oh my gosh, he might be faking this to get paid. It never crossed my mind, and for that reason, I can't blame any of you guys for never thinking that. But it was only until recently where he brought several of his team members into this as well, mainly FaZe Adapt, for astonishing numbers. Just a few days ago, he uploaded this video with FaZe Adapt, winning $60,000.
And obviously, when you see these websites being promoted with a ton of money being won, if you're a kid, you might see this and be like, what the fuck? I can win that much money? Oh my God. And kids don't understand anything about gambling. They don't understand that, this digital marketplace and opening loot boxes and crates and shit like that and getting these items that are worth real world money is essentially gambling. And even if they do know it's gambling, they don't understand the dangers of gambling in general. But it was being widely promoted by a lot of members of the FaZe Clan at the time. But it wasn't really just FaZe, right? A lot of other influencers in the gaming community were also promoting this.
Players, and now FaZe members stage these bets. And I say stage because it's so hard to see this through that film of, you know, it's got to be legit. It's got to be real. The reactions are so real. I want you guys to just go back, watch these videos, and think to yourself. See through that thick film.
So FaZe Rain, I won $60,000 promoting CSGO Wild.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Alex or FaZe Zap here today with my buddy.
Sorry, FaZe Adapt.
FaZe Rain, my roommate, my associate, business associate, if you will. And today I'm doing something I've never done before. I've never, ever, like, ventured into trying anything like this. But I always see Norden and Tico and all the guys in the house doing this. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about gambling.
Guys, I just see all these guys in the house doing this. All these other guys in the house are doing this. It's crazy. I just wanted to try it out randomly, bro, for no reason. Top comment is Adapt and Rain. Do you think we're that stupid? Yes, they do.
On CSGO, like, gambling, actual, like, what? Can you help me explain this?
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, because I've been doing it more. I want to try it out, so I got him hooked up.
I'm a big-ass noob.
He's a big-ass noob, but he wants to try it out, so
we're on a gambling website, it's CSGO Wild, and I have $5,000, right? I have $5,000.
It's about $5,000, like, real dollars, I mean, maybe, like, 4 or 5, but...
And I'm gonna sit on this website, and I'm gonna just gamble. I'm gonna try to win. Here we go. That's the only bet.
So here he's betting, guys. He's betting. Who knows? Anything could happen. Anything could happen.
I'm placing just on Wild. How much is that?
That's 500, 7 plus. That's 35.
35K.
35K, yeah.
On Wild, please.
Easy peasy, 35K, dude.
I got it!
Oh, we won 60 grand. Oh my God. Turkalicious Tom, what is your wisdom? Stop gooning. Actually, maybe start, but stop. It's new year. Keep stopping. Thank you, Chad J. Thundercock, for becoming a member. Real reaction, guys. Real fucking reaction, right? But obviously, with the claims of such high rewards, the prospect of such high rewards, and how relatable these guys seem to their audience, right? But at the same time, Jake Lucky, witnessing what he thought were staged moments, he attempted to verify the results behind this by checking these guys' inventories. And what he ultimately discovered is that the things they supposedly won weren't there. And as a result, he believed that none of their supposed big earns were actually genuine. He believed they'd been orchestrated for entertainment purposes. And by entertainment purposes, what I mean is promoting these sites to make money, right? That was the entertainment purpose, to promote this site.
Are these guys really making, you know, are all these pro players really making $30, $40, $50,000? The only evidence I have of this is if you check their inventories right after they upload the videos, their inventories don't have the skins in them. They're all friends with the admin as well. And most likely what's happening here, guys, you know, I cannot blame you guys for not believing me, because it's really hard to see through that thick film. It's really hard to see through it, but I want you guys to just try and think about this. So CSGO Wild will most likely be like CSGO Diamonds. They'll pay them a chunk of a percentage of referrals that they get to the website, and they'll pay them a certain portion in skins.
So they were gaslit, no payout? Well, Steph's, not exactly. The claim is that they were gaslighting their audience because they didn't really get a payout, but they are promoting this site under the guise of big winnings so that they get money from like a referral code, basically, right? So they get money, they make money from people using the site. The allegation from Jake is basically that they're all in on it. They're all in on this CSGO Wild thing, right? That's his claim. He thinks they're faking it. So that, you know, let's say the winnings are fake, right? Oh, they didn't win 60 grand, big whoop, right? But the goal is to promote it so that they can then make money off of people using the site. That's the claim. Or at least from a referral from people, you know, using the site to place bets, right? Now, there's a lot of speculation from Jake here. He didn't really know necessarily. You can still criticize these guys, though. I will say, I think, for promoting gambling to children. You know, I don't really I don't have necessarily a problem with doing a gambling sponsorship as long as it's regulated gambling that only adults can use, right? Because ultimately, I place the responsibility of those who gamble in the hands of the gambler. I think gambling addiction is a big deal, but you know, I wouldn't moral F about this issue if it was only like, oh, well, they're just promoting gambling to adults, right? The problem to me is promoting gambling to children, promoting what is effectively gambling on these sites to kids. I mean, these guys themselves describe it as gambling, right? There's a reason why advertising regular gambling services to minors is illegal, right? But this is not a regular gambling service. This is CSGO Wild. It is online gambling, and it is under the, Steam marketplace, right? And at the time, he thought something fishy was going on. Now, this video is now private. This video, I believe, of FaZe Banks talking about it, but I do have a clip of it in my video. This is an old video I made years ago.
Regulating such a market was unprecedented.
Around this time, Counter-Strike was kind of the game, and there were a lot of these like gambling websites with skins. Like,
Happy New Year, Tom. My girlfriend wouldn't let me get the Nevergoon merch. I think she's working for the Goon Lord Deep State. Break up with her right now.
I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but there's like a currency in Counter-Strike, and it's skins. There's a real market for it, and some of these skins, like a skin for like the sniper or like a knife or whatever, some of these go upwards of like $10,000 on the open market. So with that, people started creating these like gambling sites where you could gamble with these skins. And it was kind of like gray area because it's a skin in the game and there's no actual real like value to it. Like the government puts absolutely no value to it.
That same day.
So FaZe Banks right here is acknowledging, right, member of FaZe at the time, he's acknowledging there's no regulation going on. The government is not looking into this, so it's not technically legally gambling, even though that's effectively what it is. That's basically what FaZe Banks is saying here. This clip, I believe, is from the Mom's Basement podcast with Keemstar, right? Don DR is back on Twitter. No statement on Lex, though. Interesting. Maybe he will make a statement. I guess we'll have to see. Super mega drama may carry on to this day. Maybe he'll have some kind of response. But back to this topic. This little clip would be from the future. This wouldn't be revealed until much later. We're going back to the past, back to the drama with the FaZe guys, with CSGO Wild, with Jake Lucky, right? The same day that Jake Lucky made his video, FaZe Rain would make a video responding, and it was titled The Truth, right?
What is going on, guys?
In this video, he intentionally avoided mentioning Jake by name. But what he did do is he claimed there was no way that such a site like CSGO Wild could be skewed, could have rigged results, and that Adapt had not been sponsored by this site, right? And he even took this argument to Twitter, stating that they could prove it wasn't rigged because it was a single live recording, right? Now, this video here is now removed. A lot of this stuff is lost to time, so you have to kind of take my word on that. But I think I included it in my video from back in the day. Here we have FaZe Rain saying, under the name of Vape Lord Nord, bro, he said the vid me and Alex made was fake, and it was 1,000,000% real. It was one OBS file of live recording. So here he's saying, oh, it couldn't be fake, right? We have the OBS recording. It's all one live recording we took at the time, right? But keep in mind, this doesn't really take into account the fact that what the owner of Diamond stated about them having access to the list of future roles was still true. So Jake was kind of speculating that based on what happened with CSGO Diamonds and MoTV, it's very possible that the same thing is happening with CSGO Wild. Unfortunately for Rain, he was pretty young at the time. He didn't really know how to respond to this controversy, and he kind of contradicted himself because he admitted in private that Adept was paid for doing this. But he said he was paid in emeralds, which means that he was given an equivalent amount of in-game currency, basically, right? Of $5,000 to gamble on the site.
Well, Adapt was paid, but he was only paid in emeralds, so that really doesn't count. And so this brings me to my second point that FaZe Rain also made. He said that being paid in emeralds, which is the currency on CSGO Wild, is not the same as being paid. And so again, to contradict these...
I don't know why he would admit this. But this kind of goes back to what Banks was saying, where Banks was like, well, it's unregulated. It's not really real gambling, legally speaking, but it still kind of is gambling, right? That's basically what Banks said, right? And here you have FaZe Rain saying, well, he did get paid, but it was in emeralds. And obviously, you could use emeralds to buy skins. Skins going to be exchanged for real world money, so he is being paid. This is a complete technical argument. So all of this happened, okay? Ultimately, I think it's clear that something fishy is going on here. Something very, very strange is happening. And ultimately, the way that this sort of came to a head was with another controversy with a completely different CSGO site that ultimately would become the spearhead, the tip of the spear for this entire CSGO controversy back in the day, the CSGO gambling controversy. And that would come to a few different YouTubers, named T Martin and Pro Syndicate. Very similar to how FaZe had promoted CSGO Wild, these guys back in the day had promoted CSGO Lotto. They were promoting what they called CSGO betting on CSGO Lotto.
Indicate. Apparently, these two have been allegedly faking gambling and also faking...
You can see here, T Martin. New Operation Wildfire Cases, CSGO Case Opening Part 31. CSGO Betting from T Martin. Part 1, Saving Tom's Knife. Tom being Pro Syndicate. Counter-Strike Jackpot Gambling. I got the new knife. Shadow Daggers Unboxing Reaction New CSGO Cases, right? So these guys simultaneously are promoting this other site. Once again, kind of similar to the way that Aiden Ross and a lot of those guys were promoting gambling sites. Although in fairness, Aiden Ross and Trainwrecks were much, much more transparent about those sites and how they were being paid by them. Which leads me to my next point, right? People at the time were speculating that maybe there was something going on here where the site they're promoting, CSGO Lotto, might actually have something to do with T Martin and Pro Syndicate, right? And these guys had huge audiences at the time. T Martin at the time had, I believe, 4 million subscribers, and Pro Syndicate had 11 million subscribers. And these guys, if you look at their channels today, T Martin today has 5.42 million subscribers on his main channel and 3.23 million on, or sorry, $5 million on his second channel, $3 million on his main channel. Pro Syndicate, which I believe his channel is just called Syndicate, Tom Syndicate. This guy, by the way, matched with Wings of Redemption back in the day, was part of his downfall. He had almost 10 million subscribers. He has almost 10 million subscribers today. So huge fucking channels, right? Massive channels. Such a dated fucking, dude, the music, the editing, the reaction. Not only is it dated, but does it remind you of something? Does it remind you of something else, maybe? A little bit? Just a little bit? Does it remind you of a prior reaction we just took a look at for some other guys?
Let me be clear here. I'm not accusing anyone. I found some info and I want to show it to my viewers.
So, who is this guy? Who is Honor the Call? Who is this guy? We'll come back to him in a second. These guys, T Martin and Pro Syndicate, they very much framed this site through their videos as a way to get rich quick, right? They made a bunch of videos about CSGO Lotto, about CSGO betting, and how much money you could make doing it, right? And ultimately, what Honor the Call discovered was that this site, this business they were promoting, had been registered as a business in Florida.
Coincidence, since T Martin also lives in Orlando. But no, it wasn't. Trevor Martin, aka T Martin, is the director of this site. He fucking owns the damn site.
So what he discovered was that T Martin was the owner of the same site he was promoting. He was literally the owner of the same exact site that he was fucking promoting on YouTube, which at the time he did not disclose. He did not disclose that he was promoting a site, a gambling site, that he was the owner of. And at first, you can even see his reaction. He's like, oh, it might be a coincidence. Okay, well, it's registered in Orlando. That's, you know, the same place T Martin lives. Oh, wait, his name is there. Trevor fucking Martin. Same fucker, guy. Same fucker. Same fucking guy. So this couldn't be a coincidence. That is literally impossible, okay? T Martin is listed as the director and registering agent of the site, of this LLC, so he owned it. He owned this site. So all of these grandiose returns, all these larger than life, like, oh my God, I just want all this money, right? That was an environment that he was in control of. He could literally rig the bets if he wanted to. And remember, we already knew from CSGO Diamonds that the people in charge of the site had access to the next 100 roles, on that site at least. But what's also interesting about this is that these documents also listed a guy named Cassell Thomas as the company's vice president. Cassell Thomas happens to be the real name of Pro Syndicate, meaning these guys had been in on this entire thing since the very beginning. They owned this site. They created this business. They then promoted it as if they did not own it to their audience, many of which were underage. A lot of which were underage kids watching their videos, right? Tom, any words of encouragement for Gen Beta born in 2025 plus? Give up. Give up. Thankfully, they won't have to watch TikTok. That's a Gen Alpha thing. So legally speaking, at this point, for all intents and purposes, there was no way that these guys could deny they own the company. Past this point, they were fucking caught, right? These listings were backed up by a bunch of different archives. Honor the Call had his video up. There was no way they could get that video taken down. So they had been absolutely caught red-handed in a brutal fucking way, right? And so the way that they would respond was very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Is that myself and a few other people, including Tom or Pro Syndicate, own CSGO Lotto. And this is something that has never been a secret. I don't
Really? But you said something different to your 5 million subscribers a few months ago.
Now, what I was talking about earlier, I want to talk to you guys about at the end of the video. I've been starting to bet a little bit more. Like Brock, like obviously you guys know he loves betting. He's posted a ton of betting videos on his channel and stuff.
You can already tell he's acting here, by the way. This guy's such a fake fucker.
And he's been hitting me up. And we found this new site. Called CSGO Lotto.
Called CSGO Lotto. We found this site, guys. We just happened to find this new site.
I'll link it down in the description if you guys want to check it out. But we were betting on it today.
If you want to check it out, you know, it's in the description. You don't have to, though. There's no reason to necessarily. I don't own it. I have no financial incentive, right? So these guys were talking out of their ass. They were fucking lying. They were absolutely full of shit. And what's funny about it is that another guy named Josh OG, who was involved in this entire thing, he tried to say, he ended up inadvertently admitting that he owned equity in CSGO Lotto, but he called it a sponsorship. Keep in mind, equity is ownership. You own 1% of the company. Therefore, you are directly benefiting off of that. So you have to disclose it in the sponsorship. It's illegal not to. So these guys were getting fucked. They were getting absolutely destroyed. They ended up going through their video descriptions and adding disclaimers to the bottom of their videos. One of them reads, play at your own risk and please don't play if you're underage or if it's not legal in your jurisdiction. But this was added after the fact, right? This little cute smiley face down here. Smiley face was added after the fact, right? T Martin also had the authenticity to prevent that this note had been present the entire time, that this little disclaimer had always been there, despite the fact that it literally said edited on the description, and he clearly added it after.
Descriptions of every single one of my CSGO Lotto videos, it says in there, like, thank you to...
I have 3...
Like, I don't know how dumb this guy is. but he clearly had not put it in the description at the time. He only added it after the fact once he got caught.
Sets of proofs of him updating his descriptions. I will leave the links down below. Please see it for yourself. This is even more shady. Why are you covering your tracks? I thought you have nothing to hide. And then he says, video made possible by CSGO Lotto. What the fuck, dude? You own the company. Man up and say it's your company. Big shout out to Psychotic Chaos for helping me put.
So, onto the call, I put together this whole story. People started talking about it, and eventually a lot of large commentary channels finally started taking notice, and they started calling these guys out. With probably the biggest being H3H3 at the time. Big fan of the show, I've heard, okay? He uploaded a video titled Deception, Lies, and CSGO.
Today we're talking about CSGO gambling, which is really something that's taken the internet by storm these past couple of years, and it seems like these gambling sites are popping up all over the place, and there's some controversy stewing around it. Now I know Gabe and Valve are memes, they're supposed to be the saviors of the internet and all that, but underneath all of this, there's some really shady shit going on with Valve, and even more with the people operating these sites themselves. And I kind of want to give you guys an overview from top down just to show you how fucked up this shit has gotten.
And what's interesting about this is at the time, Ethan not only was criticizing T Martin and Pro Syndicate and all these guys from running these sites, he was also criticizing Valve for allowing this to happen negligently.
Now, according to this Bloomberg article entitled Virtual Weapons Are Turning Teen Gamers into Serious Gamblers, they allege that these gambling sites take 2.3 billion trades just in 2015. 2.3 billion. That's a huge industry. For those of you who are not familiar with Counter-Strike, it's basically a multiplayer game where you shoot each other. But the big pull of the game right now is the virtual items you can own in the game. So you can get a really cool looking AK-47, and they range in price from 1 cent all the way up to like $4,000. And the way you obtain these skins is by buying a key that costs $250 to opening crates that randomly drop in the game. And it feels like Valve itself has specifically designed this game to operate almost exactly like a slot machine. When you compare opening...
So you can see here Ethan's calling out Valve, he's calling out T Martin, Pro Syndicate, and so eventually these guys will be pressured to respond in some way. And the way that T Martin would respond would be in a video that is considered probably one of the worst YouTube apologies of all time. It's kind of been forgotten about in recent years, but for a while, this was like on all those tier lists of the worst YouTube apologies. This is right up there. This was right up there. People consider this to be bad, up there with like what Logan Paul had to say.
What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I know everyone hates YouTube drama, but I'm not one of them. In fact, this has become one of my biggest guilty pleasures, just watching YouTube drama unfold from afar. This is my soap opera. This is my...
And I believe this is like kind of at the beginning of Critical covering this stuff, right? Because he had covered drama stuff before, but this is from 2016. T Martin apology video.
As the world turns, fucking as the YouTube burns, that's what this is. And it's great. It's just this big hubbub over very mundane things on the website, and it's become so popular recently, and I can't help but kind of tune in because it's very fascinating. And one thing I always look forward to in these situations is the inevitable apology video from one of the two sides, because they're usually just absolutely atrocious and very fun to watch. Now, I'm sure anyone watching this is familiar with the CSGO Lotto drama. To sum it up, two big YouTubers, Syndicate and T Martin, own this gambling website for Counter-Strike skins, and they never disclosed that they owned it and manipulated their viewers into using it and all this shit. And today, T Martin made an apology video for it, and it is turbo shitty. So I wanted to just kind of talk about it. So the video starts with T Martin talking to his special guest Airbud, and they're running a promotional for Airbud's new movie, Airbud Gambles on CSGO Skins, and he's saying how difficult it's going to be for him to make this video. So right away, T Sharton has made me very uncomfortable and squirming in my chair like my rectum's been tickled by a fucking porcupine, because it's the most cringeworthy attempt at using one of the most popular techniques for public service announcements and emotional campaigns, where you get a cute animal there to get the viewer's guard down, make them feel like you're being real with them, make them feel like they're being genuine, and just kind of elicit sympathy from the viewer. And T Martin's trying to utilize this technique, but he does it atrociously. It's just an absolutely abysmal.
And Critical is right on the money here. The emotional manipulation, the acting from T Martin in his apology was no different than the emotional manipulation and acting he did with his original promotion of CSGO Lotto. But the bigger point here is that he had lied about this business. Okay, he had never disclosed the fact that he owned it. Not only that, he directly lied about the fact that he did own it by saying, "Oh, guys, I just found this new website. It's crazy. Turns out he fucking owned it, right? He was full of shit. And this was a huge deal at the time, and a lot of people came down on T. Martin and Pro Syndicate. There was a lot of controversy around it, but ultimately, nothing happened. The FTC was looking into this for a little bit, but I assume partially due to the unregulated nature of CSGO gambling and stuff like that. Ultimately, they ended up reaching a settlement with T. Martin and Syndicate, and the only real result of it was that they had to disclose their business ties to anything they endorse in their channels going forward, which was part of the problem, but not the real problem. The real problem was what they were promoting in the first place, arguably, which is basically promoting gambling, unregulated gambling, to a child audience. And ultimately, it just was dead in the water. There was also a lawsuit filed against these guys. Basically went nowhere. Valve won its motion to dismiss in their gambling class action lawsuit, so Valve was not on the hook. Here we have the court filing for that. This is a class action lawsuit against Valve at the time. Valve ultimately took the W, and this all went away. Nobody talked about it anymore. There were videos that were, talking about the situation since then, kind of a past tense type thing. I know Fillion did a good one where he talked about what had happened, basically, which we can take a look at, actually. CSGO Wild, this game that got away. This goes further into FaZe Banks.
Go lounge. Honestly, I'll let you in on a secret. Don't tell anybody I said this, but we figured out how to just scheme so much money out of Hollywood and the internet. Like, we're just running with it.
I know it, dude.
Until the fucking wheels fall off.
Man, dude. Wait, hey, where's your buddy?
I love Charlie, but he disappointed me when he stopped drama what involved him, similarly to Muda, as soon as the spotlight reached him when they folded. Thanks for the dono. To be fair, T. Martin set the formula for YouTube apologies. He did do that, I guess. He set a good standard for how bad they are. What do you mean he said he legit found the site? He's admitting to being the owner. Obviously, no lie here. That's very true, Snow. That's very true. T. Martin was actually based the entire time.
7 years ago was the start of an internet phenomenon that still has its roots in today's media landscape on YouTube and Twitch. A hyper-specific genre of content that was fueled by greed and lies from influencers, companies, and bad actors that capitalized off underage audiences. Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO for short, is the most competitive first-person shooter game in the world. The mechanics of CSGO would seem bare bones compared to today's modern shooting games, but that is exactly what makes it so special. With limited movement, map awareness, accuracy, and speed are everything. The competitive CSGO scene was born in the early 2000s, but really picked up steam in the 2010s when the increased demand and popularity of the game meant million-dollar prize pools. But there's no sense in talking about CSGO without one key aspect of the game. It wasn't until...
And so he walks through the history of CSGO here, why it got so big, and eventually he gets into specifically FaZe Banks and FaZe Clan and their involvement with CSGO Wild.
Oh shit! I got it! Let's go!
Oh my god, let's go! We won!
You're up to 56 Let's go! I got the fucking Wild! I put 2,500 on it! Oh, bro, you're up to 60K! Jeez!
I don't know about you guys, but I've seen better acting in porn. Number 2, I'll just ask a question. Why take a sketchy sponsorship from a CSGO gambling website when you can own one? Just as the underground market for CSGO gambling was exploding, it seemed as if the
You can see there were all of these different websites.
Just as
skins2.com, csgoatsy.com, that's a really funny domain, csgolive.com, csgo500.com, csgowild.com, which is the FaZe Banks one, csgostrong.com.
The underground market for CSGO gambling was exploding, it seemed as if the participants knew it was going to crash, and they had to cash out as much as possible before it was shut down forever.
This is probably not going to be around long, and if you can make fucking money on video game pixels, I would do so. All right, Nick, you ready? We got 10 G's to fuck with.
By mid-2015, everyone and their mother was trying to make a CSGO gambling website, and new casinos started popping up everywhere. This was bad for business, as the space was becoming oversaturated and it was rife with competition. But a few casinos had an advantage. Influencer marketing was a surefire way to drive massive amounts of traffic to your casino, so long as you abused the parasocial relationship with your millions of fans.
And this is in the same way that, like, to draw a comparison for something that's more benevolent, right? A lot of YouTubers have realized recently that why would I promote someone else's product? Why would I promote Dollar Shave Club or Honey or some other company, right? That, they pay me, but then they make the real money, when I could just make my own product and promote it to my audience. And that's essentially the same thing that some of these guys started thinking. Why would I promote some other site that I don't own when the real money isn't being made by the guys that are getting paid for sponsorships? The real money is being made by the casinos, who are absolutely able to rake in the cash.
T. Martin and Pro Syndicate. These two YouTubers wrote the...
So he goes over T. Martin, goes over Pro Syndicate. Obviously, that's a pretty big deal. But there's more to it than that. There were other people involved.
...FaZe, and he assured everyone that the games were not soon, leaked DMs, emails, and proof of who was involved with CSGO Wild began circulating on drama and news channels. It was clear that FaZe Banks was directly involved with setting up this company.
Here, Banks says, looking for some graphics guys who specialize in web design specifically. Link me your portfolios looking to pay someone good money. Here, FaZe Rain says, we're talking good money. So they're bragging about how much money they can pay people.
But the extent to which he hid his involvement via shell companies is still vague. While every CSGO gambling website came crashing down in July of that year, CSGO Wild posted this on Twitter. It was a bullshit twit longer that explained all of the allegations against CSGO Wild, including who owned it, rigged games, and where it was based. Apparently, CSGO Wild was owned by a guy named Gagey, but that turned out to be a flat-out lie. Was he involved? Sure. But more importantly, he was able to take the blame because he's anonymous. He then went on to explain how he worked out a sponsorship deal with FaZe, and he assured everyone that the games were not rigged, which was also a flat-out lie. Here's a clip of FaZe Adapt and FaZe Rain gambling as their accounts get refilled with fake money.
It was one away.
Bro, one off!
I would have.
So he talks about this, and what's interesting about it is that later on, FaZe Banks would basically admit that he had set up the site himself.
Banks explains his involvement with a CSGO gambling website on episode 11 of the Bad News podcast.
It was the Bad News podcast, not Mama's Basement, my bad. Here he is explaining this, though.
Up with this idea. With these kids, I came up with this idea for a different way to do it. And we branded it the right way. And my motivation for doing it actually was at the time we weren't making enough money to buy a CSGO team. All in, the venture was going to cost us like $1 million, and we definitely did not have anything close to that. So my brain, we got to finesse it. We got to figure out how to make the money to buy this team now, because in the next 6 months, a year, this team's gonna be worth like $4 or $5 million, and we're not gonna be able to get into this game, which in our heads we need to get in this game. So we create this website, and through our rake and all this shit, we were making like $200,000 a day. And we set it up in Antigua. We set it up in Antigua. I had a house in Antigua for like.
Where's that?
For like Antigua in the Caribbean.
Island, yeah. Where?
So they basically, what they did, what FaZe Banks did at least, with some other guys involved with FaZe, is he set up a business on some private fucking island in some random ass country in South America that doesn't have regulated gambling laws, right? He set up this business. He then presumably used FaZe Clan to promote this and absolutely raked in the cash. He was the guy owning it the entire time. The house always wins. It's a fucking like Wolf of Wall Street level scheme. I'm almost in awe and envious of his ability to pull this off. This guy is devious. He fucking did it, right? But ultimately, all these guys got away with it. It didn't really matter. FaZe Banks today has an untouchable reputation. He's totally fine. Doesn't really seem to matter. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not to cancel anyone, although I do think that there could be some good criticisms made here. The reason I'm bringing this up is to show that there's a long history of CSGO gambling being promoted to younger audiences, of the games being rigged, of influencers setting up these businesses, and in the case of MoTV, being complicit in games being rigged before promoting it. What's interesting about it is that basically almost 10 years later, because all this happened in 2015, 2016, now CoffeeZilla is talking about it and how it's still a fucking problem, with a video called Lies, Deception, and Valve. And I think it'd be interesting to watch this video. And I know I have been talking less in this segment than I normally do in my segments, but the reason why is because I just wanted to lay out all the sort of research and evidence beforehand for this entire narrative to show that this has always been a problem. This has consistently been a thing. And it's just that nothing's been done about it. And I have to guess probably nothing ever will be done about it. At least not, inside of a while. Inside of, 5-10 years. Maybe that's just me being blackpilled, but I just have no faith that anything will be regulated to this point as far as online gambling and these shady methods of doing it that kind of skirt the moral and ethical, legal, more I'd say really just legal gray area, more morally and ethically. I think it's pretty clear what's going on.
Reminiscent.
But now CoffeeZilla has decided to call out Valve officially, and he's getting a lot of media attention for it. A lot of media attention. He's really shaking things up. Sports Illustrated wrote an article about it. CoffeeZilla calls out Valve in latest CSGO gambling expose. They did a nice long write-up all about it. You got a lot of other publications talking about it as well. Smaller publications like Sportskeeda, Dust2.us, Gambling News, Vegas Slots Online, The Nerd Stash. Probably the biggest people covering it are Sports Illustrated, but it is interesting how it's being covered on a super mainstream scale now. And CoffeeZilla seems to be the only guy with a big enough platform who's willing to actually go into the details behind it to talk about what's going on and do it in a very concise, entertaining, but also well-researched way that proves everything that he's saying is true.
I got bribed to make a video exposing a single Counter-Strike casino, but I decided to expose the whole industry instead, which led us from pitchforks to people rushing stages, millionaires making excuses, and esports teams who say they can't survive without gambling. The lack of any accountability making me wonder about the biggest casino of them all, Valve, the owner of Counter-Strike. Now, if you've watched the last few episodes, you know there's a lot of opinions about what the problem is, who's the villain, who's the good guy. Hardly anyone agrees on anything. But I did find one thing that nearly everyone agrees on.
I started gambling on Counter-Strike when I was probably 13 years old.
13 years old. I think I was 14.
Valve definitely.
And a lot of these guys probably started gambling because of people like T Martin, Pro Syndicate, and FaZe Adapt and FaZe Rain promoting these CSGO gambling sites to their child audiences. And because there's no necessarily, proper age verification to essentially gamble on these sites through this unregulated Valve market, ultimately nothing was done about it. Nothing probably will be done about it. And also part of the problem is that, I think for this to really have a big impact, the government would have to get involved. And I don't think they're going to, if they haven't already. But even if they did, what would really happen? Valve's not going to get shut down. Steam's not going to get shut down. What's going to happen is people are going to be like, oh, that's crazy, and then carry on using Steam to buy games. And so will I. I'm not going to act like I'm some fucking paragon of virtue. I'm not going to stop using Steam. It's easily the most convenient place to purchase games online, right? Need more loot boxes for Gabe's Super Yacht? That's true. It's easily the best way to, the best marketplace to buy games online. Steam is just too big. Even if they did get some kind of giant, fine, it would have to be like $300 billion to really affect them, financially speaking.
It does have an underage gambling problem.
I think Valve does have an underage gambling problem.
Yes, it is underage gambling disguised because it holds real life value.
Underage, middle age, overage, however you want to select.
Even some of the people who he's exposing agree with him that it is a problem and that, they ultimately started gambling on Counter-Strike skins when they were... One guy said 13 years old. Another guy thinks at 12 or 13. These guys aren't even in high school yet, and they're gambling. That's disgusting.
When I was young, that's the most easily influential age to get people in, because I can't go to a real casino and gamble.
What I did back then was I went to our local video game store, bought $20 worth of Steam credits. I would buy skins with those $20 credits, no verification at all.
Right, this is the most consistent answer I've received in a story where no one agrees on anything. Underage gambling is rampant on Counter-Strike. Not only that, Valve has known this was a problem for at least 8 years. And for those 8 years, Valve has done things here and there, but they've never seriously tackled offshore gambling issues.
They basically do things to kind of make the controversy die down. They do little things to be like, oh, we're handling it. We're doing something to improve it. We're going to take little steps to improve it. But it's all PR. They're not actually doing anything to stop the underage gambling from happening on their platform.
With some speculating the reasons why.
I think they have all the responsibility. I mean, you could pass me some of that if you want, but ultimately they're the kingpin, reaping in all of the money, or majority of the money, and there's a reason why they haven't killed it yet. They've possessed the power for all these years, but they allow it to go, and I feel like they do the bare minimum crackdown to allow it to keep operating.
That's right. Now, the person you just heard has ulterior motives for putting...
So I'm not going to watch this entire CoffeeZilla video. I would encourage you guys all to watch it if you want, because he's going to have a lot of interesting information revealed. But the point of this segment is just to show that, this is not even... This CoffeeZilla kind of alludes to, although he focuses more ultimately on the present day. This is not a new problem with quote-unquote influencers, with YouTubers. This is not a new thing. I don't think the problem is going to be solved anytime soon, if I had to guess, but this is not a new phenomenon that's going on. This is something that's been happening for 10 years basically at this point, and the people at the top who are making money from it are profiting so much that I don't think the people that get hurt along the way, the kids who are gambling and getting addicted to gambling at a very young age when they could not possibly have the mental faculties to understand what's going on. People at the top don't really give a shit about it. It doesn't matter to them. Should I switch my sub from Tom Dark to Tom Dark Live? Yes, I would highly recommend that. So definitely check out CoffeeZilla's video if you find the subject interesting, you want to hear more about it.